Welcome back. It's the race to lead what some consider the most powerful city in the world. And with the April 1st primary for D.C. mayor only 2 days away, we brought in some of the top names in D.C. news to help us dissect this race. Joining us today, Robert McCartney, columnist for The Washington Post, Michael Martinez, producer of the Columnist Show and the Politics Hour at WAMU, and Michael Neibauer, reporter for the Washington Business Journal and one of our regular contributors. Welcome to you all. Michael Martinez, let me start with you because you all had a poll out recently that got a lot of attention. The poll came out March 21st, a city paper, Columnist Show poll conducted in the field March 13th to the 16th. What did you find?
We were all really eager to see how Jeffrey Thompson's guilty plea was going to affect the electorate's perception of these candidates. What we found most interesting, even though Muriel Bowser has pulled even, she's essentially running in a dead heat, and polls that have been done afterwards have corroborated that. We found that Vincent Gray's support, he actually has a very rock-solid base of support that keeps him around 26–27%, and then he's not likely to lose any more voters than that. I
think, if anything, that base seems to have solidified for the mayor. You all have, in your poll, 27% Muriel Bowser, 27% Vincent Gray, 14% undecided. That's still a pretty hefty chunk to go after, and then the rest of the candidates taking the remaining field. Let me turn to you, Bob McCartney, because the Washington Post came out a couple of days later on March 25th with a poll. We'll take a look at that now on the screen. That was conducted out in the field March 20th to the 23rd, and in that poll, you all find Muriel Bowser pulling ahead of Vincent Gray, 30% to Vincent Gray's 27%. Tommy Wells, third place after that, followed by Jack Evans, Angela, and the other candidates. Talk about what you took from that poll.
Well, it basically confirmed what we'd already heard from Mike's poll, that the Bowser and Gray were the two leading candidates. It's a two-person race now. They each had more than twice as much as any other contender, any other challenger. And I think that whereas Gray's support is solid, as you said, I think Bowser's in a much better position to pick up support from other people as other candidates' supporters say, well, I really like this person, I really like Tommy Wells, I really like Andy Shalal, I really like Jack Evans, but I'm going to vote for Bowser because that's the person with a chance of beating Gray. We don't know for sure if that's going to happen. We don't even know if the polls could be misleading for one reason or another. But that's certainly a dynamic that the Bowser campaign wants to see happen, and I think it's the thing that the Gray campaign most fears.
Michael Neibauer, talk about where the business community in Washington, D.C. stands on this race. The Post did a good article saying some of the young, new economy business leaders have largely sat out this race, but the D.C. Chamber did make an endorsement. Barbara Lang, outgoing president, a longtime supporter of Vincent Gray, they did support Vincent Gray. The Washington Board of Trade did not endorse a candidate this time, but they took out big ads in both the Washington Business Journal and Capital Business with the Washington Post, making their assessments of the candidates. What was their final assessment of the top two contenders?
No endorsement for Gray or Bowser, but clearly there is a degree of uncertainty and concern about Mayor Gray's ability to govern, given the investigation that the U.S. Attorney continues to say they are moving forward with. And Bowser, while they were a little concerned about her acumen when it comes to financial knowledge, which of course is very important to the Board of Trade, they seemed like if they had to make an endorsement, it would probably lean toward Bowser, but they didn't do it.
I got to tell you, talking to some of the people behind the scenes from the Board of Trade and elsewhere, I think it might even be stronger than that, even though they're not willing to make an endorsement. They seem to be clearly saying Bowser's their person, and they did say that they wish they had heard more about the finances. I'm not sure that whether they took a stand on whether she knew her stuff or not, but why do you think they sat it out in terms of an endorsement?
Well, perhaps because they don't want to go out against the incumbent, and they're not sure that they're not positive that Bowser is going to take this on Tuesday, or it could just be they weren't as confident in Muriel Bowser as they wanted to be to make the formal endorsement.
Robert McCartney, you wrote a column that got a lot of attention after the Jeffrey Thompson plea deal. Let me just read some of it. The headline in the Washington Post: between Mayor Vincent Gray and U.S. Attorney Ronald Machen, believe the latter. The lead from you: for 21 months, I've suspected that District Mayor Vince Gray was lying when he said he knew nothing at the time about extensive criminal wrongdoing during his 2010 campaign. Now I'm sure of it. Why did you write that?
I wrote that for two reasons, mainly. One, because we heard sworn testimony from Jeffrey Thompson under oath with U.S. Attorney Ron Machen's endorsement, saying that he had 2 face-to-face meetings with Vincent Gray in which they discussed the illicit financing, the illicit funding of the campaign. Now, Gray says it never happened. Gray says it's all lies, but Gray won't talk in detail about it. He won't explain how this came to be. He won't explain how 5 people associated with his campaign have pleaded guilty to felonies in connection with this investigation.
Well,
and then the other reason is that Ron Machen, said that, they corroborate everything that they put out there. Now, we don't know what that corroboration is, but my view is that if you have to trust Machen or Gray, I'm a columnist. I get to express personal opinions. I have that privilege. It's my responsibility, and I think it makes more sense to believe Machen.
So, Michael Martinez, let me ask you, since the mayor won't come on this show, I will say what he would say if he were here. He did not want to talk to us about the 2010 campaign, but he does want to talk about the fact that there were 34,000 new jobs created in D.C. during his time in office. He's very proud of the fact that 8,000 of those jobs were in Ward 8. What has been the strategy of the campaign in trying to deflect attention away from Ronald Machen, a very respected U.S. attorney who says he believes the mayor is lying, and try and put the attention on what the mayor has done while he has been in office?
Well, it looks like their big closing argument in the final days of the race is going to be about Muriel Bowser's experience. And anybody who picked up a copy of the Washington Express newspaper on Friday saw a big full-page ad asking, "Is Muriel ready?" It kind of looked like a story that might have been in the Express, except it was a paid ad by the Gray campaign. And they're hammering that message home over and over and over again. They're really hopeful that there's one number in the Washington Post poll that spells out good things for them, and that's that 44% of the people who said they support Muriel Bowser haven't committed. They said that they still might support another candidate. They're hoping that some of those supporters might get cold feet and that they might not show up on Election Day. So this is all about turnout, turnout, turnout from here, and they've got their fingers crossed.
We've got to wrap it. I want to give both of you 2 last days. What's your final take on this race?
Get out the vote on Tuesday for Gray. It's all about Ward 7 and 8. If the base is strong, get every single one of them to the polls.
Bob McCartney, your final take.
I think it depends on whether or not people whose first choice is Tommy Wells or Andy Shalal or Jack Evans, if those people are willing to vote for Bowser in the interest of stopping Gray, and if they do, then I think Gray loses.
An interesting race to watch, and it's just the primary. Thank you to you all. Well, coming up, moving from the military into the world of business, we'll meet someone who has found the recipe for success and is going to share it with you. Stay with us.